Honeycutt with Family First Life Coast to Coast. I'm doing the product training podcast for this week. We're going to talk about Forrester's Plan Right. Okay, so what is Forrester's Plan Right? It is a simplified issue whole life product that Forrester's offers, okay? And it's a final expense option. We're going to talk about when to use it, why to use it, how to use it, things you need to do to make sure that it gets issued, that type of stuff. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. First thing I want you to understand is really, for those that, I'll slow down to make this, I'll take a little bit of time on this actually. The first thing I want folks to understand is that with final expense in particular, when I first got started in business 5 years ago, it was a different business because everything was on paper. I had all these underwriting guides that I would carry with me, and there were all these like rules, right? Like, you know, this condition works better here, this condition works better there, and yada, yada, and all this stuff. Since the implementation of the Instant Decision e-application with Eagle Premier with Americo, my underwriting guide is to write Eagle Premier with Americo and see if it goes through. Honest, that's it. Like if somebody calls me from a home, a new agent, and they have questions, rather than me overthink it, I just say, write Eagle Premier, and let's see if it goes through. And then you say no to all the questions, you'll know right then whether or not it's approved. It wasn't like that in the beginning. And I think a lot of agents that have been around a while kind of, I don't know if everybody's wrapped their mind around how easy, simple, and basic this really is. First of all, I know this is a call about Forrester's Plan Right. But I would be remiss if I did not say that the number one product that we should be going with really is the Americo Eagle Premier product, okay? There are a couple reasons why. They're super lenient, very lenient. Americo Eagle Premier is a very lenient final expense product. There's an instant decision. You know before you leave the home if it's going to be approved or not. And the other thing is they pay you more, and they pay you an 8% bonus, okay? And it's America. I don't think it's out of bounds to say, even though this is the Forrester's Plan Right call, I don't think it's out of bounds to say that Americo truly is, from the managers in the company, from a lot of our vantage points and the way we look at it, they truly are really a partner. Now, contractually, are they? No, I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But I look at Americo like they are a partner. I go with Americo first. I believe in Americo. I love Americo. They seem to love me because they'll pay me an 8% bonus every 6 months, and I am a big fan of that because it puts more money in the agent's pocket. And the best thing that you can do as an agent for your clients is to stay in business. And plus, they offer a really great file expense product. So if you're brand new and you're listening to this information, and a lot of people will get on these product trainings. Here's the thing I'm aware of. A lot of new agents will get on these product trainings because they think that they need to know every single thing about every single product before they talk to a single person. And that's not true. You don't have to wait for every light to turn green before you leave the house. 1 hour in the field is worth 20 hours in the classroom. And so all that time that people want to spend on learning the products, like I said, final expense is very simple, especially now with Facebook leads. You can get leads in like 2 days. There's no reason, one day, there's no reason for you to have to learn every single product on the planet, try to learn every single parameter of that product before you actually go talk to somebody. With Americo Eagle Premier, you go through that financial inventory. I'm a big fan of calling out from the home. You know, before you quote a price or a product, what I would do, I still do it. Because here's something we need to talk about before we jump into the product trade. Because product trade is super important, I get it. But this is something I try to get people to understand early on, especially new agents. And I imagine there's a lot of new agents listening to this. So here's my 2 cents, okay? When I started the business, I was told, before you quote a price or product, you do your financial inventory. You get to this point, and before you quote them a price or a product, you call somebody and you give them a rundown. And what I would do in the home, and I still do it, I'll tell you why, but I don't do it every single time. I don't have to. But there's a few situations where it makes a lot of sense to do because it kind of puts the dynamic back in your corner, right? But before you quote a price or a product, you call out from the house. And what I would say to the client is I would say, Mrs. Jones, I got all their medications written down. You know, I know how much income they bring in. I know what happens when he dies. I know what happens when she dies, what that looks like financially. I know their conditions. I know when they had their stents put in. I know a lot of stuff already because of the financial inventory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, looking at this, Mrs. Jones, I see you've been on this medication for like 2 years. I got a real good idea where I want to go with it, but I definitely don't want to steer you wrong. So I just want to clarify one thing. I'm going to call my senior underwriter, and I would just make a phone call out. And what that does, especially in the final expense market, is people don't want to be sold, right? They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. And when you're dealing with a senior, you're dealing with a very wise person who knows every tactic on the planet not to buy from you. And so the best way to get on somebody's side is to go the extra mile to try to help. And calling out from the home, especially when you're new and not trying to act like a know-it-all, makes you look like somebody who's truly looking out for their best interest. It makes it look like you're trying to help rather than just pigeonhole them into something, okay? So I'm a big fan of calling out, especially when you meet those obstinate people that are they're giving you pushback the entire time. The other thing it does when you call out from the home, after you complete that financial inventory, before you quote a price or you quote a product, the other thing that it does is it makes it look like they can't get everything they think they can get. This is not car insurance. It's not you don't just save $3 a month because you call this company over this company. You have to actually qualify for it. So it creates that doubt that I can't get everything I want to get, and it makes it look like you're really going the extra mile to try to help. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's jump into let's jump back into this. The other thing that I think is really important as it pertains to final expense is you can get leads really quickly. You can go see people, and you can fill up a lot of daytime appointments, okay? Now, the thing that makes PlanRight unique is there's certain situations where PlanRight actually makes a lot of sense, and those situations are if somebody needs a high face amount of coverage. So I've already written them American Eagle Premier, I've already written them Living Promise, and they need an additional $35,000. I'm going to write them Forrester's PlanRight. Okay, so I need to get $100,000 worth of simplified issue whole life coverage. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stack final expense products. There's not a lot of situations, though, where I'm going to go to Forrester's PlanRight first, unless you can only get contracted with Forrester's. Then like if you're in a situation where this company wouldn't release you or that company wouldn't release you and Forrester's all you got, let's go with that, okay? First thing is they'll approve up to $35,000 worth of coverage, okay? So you could write $35,000 with simplified whole life coverage with Forrester's PlanRight. They'll do it between ages 50 and 85. Between ages 50 and 80, you can write up to $35,000 if it's an immediate death benefit. It's not graded, it's not modified, right? Between 81 and 85, you could only write up to $15,000 worth of coverage, regardless of how they're approved. Level, graded, modified, whatever. From 81 to 85, max face amount you can write in Forrester's PlanRight, $15,000. Important to know that. Riders that come with the product, every PlanRight product comes included a common carrier accidental death rider. What that means, I write Mrs. Jones a $35,000 PlanRight. She dies in a plane crash, then that common carrier accidental death rider will kick in and it'll double the face amount. So they'll pay out $70,000 to Mrs. Jones' family, okay? But you have to die as a fare-paying passenger on a plane, train, automobile, et cetera, right? Boat, whatever. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? There's also an additional accidental death rider that you could add on the product that also will double the face amount, okay? The minimum you can write with Forrester's Plan Right is $2,000. They have tobacco rates. They have non-tobacco rates. It is a paper application. Where you get the paper applications, you simply call Forrester's and ask them to send them to you, or you go to forresters.com, click log in, go to Easy Biz, click it, put in your writing number and your password. If you don't know your password, call Forrester's. They'll give it to you. They'll resend it. They'll reset it. Reset button, whatever. But once you get in, there's a section that says Forms and Materials. You click that. You find the Plan Right application. You print them out, have them mail them to you, whatever. The other thing you want to do when you're in there is download. Here's another caveat about Forrester's for those that are interested. I don't want to complicate this. Like I said at the beginning, my underwriting guide is I try to write American Eagle Premier and see if it goes through. Pretty much it. Unless the person has like cancer right then, I know I have to go guaranteed issue in that situation, right? Unless I know it's going to get declined, I'm not just writing America just to cross my fingers and hope. Like if I know it's going to get declined, I'll write a guaranteed issue product. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to overcomplicate this because that's pretty much my strategy now. I just write America and Eagle Premier, see if it goes through. If it doesn't, I'll write something else. But in the beginning when I started, I learned a lot about underwriting just by having Forrester's materials with me. This Forrester's Plan Right medical reference guide is the most authoritative underwriting document you can really ever have because it's the gold standard. A lot of these underwriters at companies that are making decisions on business based on rules are basically following a very tight outline to the medical reference guide from Forrester. So I encourage you to download it, read through it, study it a little bit. Now, don't do it before you run any appointments. Go run appointments, go make money. I'm just saying after you ran a bunch of appointments and, you want to be nerdy and really learn, this is a place where you can really learn. And you can learn about every single final expense product just by reading their medical reference guide, okay? Reason why, they're gonna lay out like every single medication and what it's for that you'll probably ever run into, and they'll update that puppy. I mean, they come out with new medications, they make updates and they put it in there. They also cover what the dual uses are of those drugs. So so Grady would always say, man, Trey sounds like a pharmacist. No, I just studied the Forrester's medical reference guide. That's where that came from. Because I look at it, it'll tell you what the drugs are for. It tells you what the dual uses are for. The other thing is they have another thing that's really unique inside their underwriting guide is combinations of drugs. So that a lot of times when you do an e-app, one of those instant decision apps with Eagle Premier or Living Promise, and it comes back where it needs to be reviewed, or if it comes back declined, and you're looking at the drugs going, these don't look that bad, it's because it's rules-based. And these rules basically say if you take this drug in combination with a drug from column C or column D, then we're automatically going to decline that. Well, Forrester's lets you look behind the hood, look under the hood of that, look behind the curtain. You can see what it is that they're making those decisions on. And so a lot of times when you're getting people that get declined from America or somewhere else, it's usually because of those combinations. And it's cool to kind of know what it actually was, right? Because you can't call them, they won't tell you, what it was. So it helps you get a good educated guess, and so you can go write something else. Specific questions on the Plan Right application I want you to be aware of. First of all, you have to do a paper app with Plan Right, and you have to do an aptical phone interview. If you don't do an aptical phone interview after the paper application, they're not going to approve the app. They have to have an aptical instant decision interview. So at the end of that aptical interview, the interviewer is going to tell you that Mrs. Jones is eligible for coverage. That basically means she's approved. Now, Forrester says that they could, still say no, but I don't know of an instance that happens. If they say, hey, they're approved for coverage, then that's going to issue, okay? Now, when you complete that phone interview, you get the paper application signed first. Very important. Get it all signed first. Get it all done. You do the practical phone interview, and once that's over, whether that insured decides they want to keep the coverage, if the insured changes their mind and says they don't want the coverage, or if the insured, or if Aptical says they don't qualify, no matter what the outcome is, you've got to send the paper application to Foresters. You have to. If you don't do it, they will terminate you. They don't mess around with it because that's basically your authorization, Foresters' authorization, and Aptical's authorization that they can run their MIB to make a decision. And if you don't send that in, you get in trouble. So I've seen people get terminated over that. I don't want that to be you. If you ever do a Foresters plan right, make sure you're sending in the paper application regardless of the outcome of the phone interview. Hopefully I drove that home. Specifically on the application, there's a few questions that I think we should actually just kind of dive into a little bit because there's confusion about them. Question number 2, do you require a wheelchair due to a chronic illness or disease, or do you require assistance from anyone with activities of daily living such as taking medications, bathing, dressing, eating, or toileting? The thing that messes people up, and they think this is one of those, wow, I can write Foresters, is do you require a wheelchair due to a chronic illness or disease? So I had somebody say, well, this person was in a car accident and they haven't walked in 25 years, but it's not from a chronic illness or disease. It's because their back got broken. It's the same thing. The chronic condition is they'll never walk again because their back got broken. You can't say yes. You can't say no to that question just because the person's a quadriplegic from a car accident. Okay, that's still a chronic condition. Now, the reason why they word it that way, which does give you a leg up over some of the underwriting in the other companies, is if Mrs. Jones had 2 hip replacements and she's in a wheelchair when you see her, you can say no to the question because that's not a chronic illness or condition. She's going to recover from her 2 hip replacements. Okay? She's going to recover from that knee surgery that has her in that wheelchair. Does that make sense? So if it's something she's going to recover from and she's going to get out of the wheelchair, and I don't just mean like, one day she hopes she will. Like the prognosis is I'm not going to be in the wheelchair for the rest of my life, but I'm in it right now, then you can say no to the question. Okay? Honestly say no to it. The next one that I think is really important, question 6, have you ever had or been diagnosed with more than one occurrence of the same or different type of cancer, or do you currently have cancer? So more than one occurrence of cancer, if they had prostate cancer, and then, they also had kidney cancer, then that's 2 different times, 2 different separate occurrences. You have to say yes. Okay, and that's a knockout question. The first 6 questions on the Plan Right application, you get that at logging into EasyBiz and downloading it or having them send it to you. If you have to do a paper app. If they've had more than one occurrence, obviously they have to say yes, and that knocks them out. They're not eligible for coverage. At the end of the first section of questions, the Foresters application, I think everybody should take it with them anyway. For a final expense appointment, these really are the questions you want to ask pretty much at every appointment. And I've got them down to the point where I'm asking all this stuff before I ever quote anything, okay? So, because their knockout questions are everybody's knockout questions. They're kind of the gold standard for it, okay? But at the end of the first section, it basically says if you answer no to everything in Part A, you can continue to Part B. And in Part B, it says if you answer no and everything in Part B, you can continue to Part C. If you answer yes, they qualify for modified. Okay? If you answer no to all the questions of the application, they qualify for level. If you answer no to one of the questions in the bottom section, they qualify for graded. The application will tell you exactly where that person is going to fall. So it's either accept, reject. It's really simple underwriting. Now, this is an interesting question. Part B. Question 1. Within the past 2 years, have you had or been diagnosed with or received or advised to receive treatment or medication for A, alcohol or drug abuse, or have you used illegal drugs? I have verified this, okay? There are certain states where marijuana is no longer illegal. If you're in one of those states and you pull up and Mrs. Cheech and Chong is out there on the porch, you know, that's not an illegal drug if they're smoking marijuana. You could say no. You can honestly say no to the question because it's no longer illegal. I'm not saying it's healthy or not healthy or whatever, but if you're in one of those states, California, Oregon, wherever, Colorado, there's 6 or 7 of them now, Nevada, and that person uses marijuana, that's not an illegal drug, all right? How often is that going to come up? I don't know. Just an interesting question. Until they change the wording on the application, you can honestly say no to it, okay? The next question that I think is really important, and this is one of those situations where Forester's Plan Right is going to make sense over some other products. So pay attention to this part. The cancer question for Forester's for Plan Right is a 3-year cancer question. And this is how it reads. Within the past 3 years, have you had or been diagnosed with cancer or received or been advised to receive treatment, chemotherapy, or radiation for cancer, excluding basal cell skin cancer? So some companies have a 2-year cancer question. So if Mrs. Jones has been cancer-free for 2.5 years, she could say no. She could get the level death benefit, right? Immediate level death benefit. If it's been within 2 years, you've got to go guaranteed issue. Forester's is a 3-year question. So if it's happened within 3 years, she's going to qualify for modified, all right? Not the immediate death benefit. I had a client recently that had breast cancer 4 years ago. She got declined with Mutual of Omaha. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on the podcast. I'll just tell you the story. She got declined with Mutual of Omaha. Forester's accepted her. The reason why, she was on an estrogen modulator, and that estrogen modulator was considered treatment by Mutual of Omaha. With Forester's, they considered it maintenance. Okay, so she was on tamoxifen, basically. All right. So Forrester said, hey, 4 years ago, she got put on tamoxifen. She's taken it ever since. That's just a maintenance drug. That's not treatment. The other company said, we consider that treatment. We're going to say no. That's ongoing treatment. Forrester said, that's maintenance. They'll say yes. America has very lenient rules as well. There's 5 or 6 estrogen modulators for breast cancer survivors that you got to kind of be aware of. You can read about them in the medical reference guide from Forrester to tell you what they are. Different companies look at different ones of those medications differently. But when you have the person that's been on it for more than 3 years, it's maintenance. Forrester's is very lenient to that situation. The other place where they're very lenient is psychotic problems. When people have psychosis, schizophrenia, bipolar, they're on Abilify, lithium, any major psychotic drug, Forester's will improve that with Plan Right. So, I was really excited when I first heard that because I was like, there is a bunch of distant family members that I could write now and get paid. But I found out that they don't pay out advance commissions on your family. So imagine how sad I was then. But yeah, I mean, it's good to know that too. With that, I mean, that's pretty much all I really want to talk about. I'll tell you about the main thing, the main benefit to selling Forester's that everybody needs to be aware of. And I'd encourage everyone to, if you're planning on selling the product, is to call Forester's and have them send you information on their member benefits. Now, that is the Forester's difference. That's what makes Forester's different than everybody else, is they have a suite of member benefits that are pretty valuable, okay? One of them that nobody talks about a lot is Legal Link. Okay, Legal Link gives you discounted rates for certain legal things like living trust, that type of stuff, divorces, whatever. They can get a discount by calling this hotline and they hook you up with an attorney at a discounted rate. They'll answer questions, all that stuff that's included in the plan. Kind of neat. The other member benefit, the most known about member benefit is the orphan benefit. And so if a child is orphaned by the death of a Forester's member, then that child's caretaker is going to receive, in addition to the death benefit, is going to receive $900 a month for that child until they turn 18 years old. So if a child's 12, mom and dad die in a car accident, they were Forester's members, grandma's going to take care of the child, then grandma's going to get $900 a month for that child until they turn 18 to help take care of them. And then when they turn 18, Forester's will pay up to $6,000 a year for their college. Okay? By understanding and knowing how to present those benefits, it provides a lot of value in the product, and a lot of people will buy Forester's over other products just because of that. All right? So with that being said, that's pretty much, let me give you a quick rundown again. The most important thing about Forester's is if you do the Plan Right application, you do the tactical phone interview, regardless of the outcome, good, bad, or ugly. The client decides not to take it, they don't get approved, whatever, you still have to send that paper application in, or else they'll kick you out. All right? I don't want anybody to get sad, I didn't tell them. All right, and next thing is, write American Eagle Premier first. If you still have to write a bunch more coverage, or if you need to stack coverage, Forester's is a good option. All right, you guys have a great week. I hope this product training was helpful. See you guys again soon.